Good afternoon. This is Howard Wigg. Welcome to Think Tech Tank Hawaii. I am the host for this show, and our guests are from Energy Industries. They are one of many, many great energy firms out there, and I will be hosting the show in the future. I hope to bring some other firms on, but Energy Industries and I go back quite a ways. And what I particularly like about this firm is when they get queried about solar, specifically photovoltaics, they say, no, no, no. We know photovoltaics are sexy, they're pizzazzy, they're the thing to do. You're in the in crowd with photovoltaics. But no, we need to step back and take a look at the entire building, because it's not sexy, but you can get a lot more bang for your buck by looking at the mundane things like lighting, air conditioning, and water heating if you have that, and even at the windows. You might have heat pouring through the windows and you might benefit from window film. Why do we want to look at the other components first? Number one, they have a quicker payback time. They're going to be there for a long, long time. And from my standpoint as a state energy office official, they deliver a smooth load, meaning when your lighting energy goes down, it's down. It doesn't fluctuate with every cloud that passes by. When your AC load goes down, it's steady. And very often it goes into the peak time of electrical demand, which is between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. in Hawaii. And we want to shave that peak, shut some more power plants down. So on that cheery note, and I know that Hawaii Industries does this because I've spent a lot of time on a lot of seminars with this esteemed firm. Gives me great pleasure to introduce Dwayne Akashiwai, recently the president, and Tina Sprague, who is the solar person for Energy Industries. Dwayne, why don't we start off with you, give a general view of what Hawaii or Energy Industries does, and kind of complement what I said there.
Okay. We've been in business now for 20 years, solely focused on energy. We started out as a lighting retrofit company back when T8s were just starting, back in the mid to early 90s. And since then, we've grown now to the point where we have multiple divisions. One division is our lighting retrofit, which has always been our strong division. Our thermal division has come along, which takes care of HVAC, you mentioned, air conditioning, ventilation, and water heating. And then we have a third division that does solar photovoltaic applications. And then our last division is the newest division that was formed, which is EIC Capital, which has created financing or shared savings or service-related programs for energy efficiency and solar PV.
Could you tell us briefly how the shared savings works? Because a big impediment to a lot of companies is they say, oh, this is great, I'd love to do it, but I don't have any capital available.
Exactly, and what we've seen over the years is people realize that reduction, saving energy is a good thing. I mean, it's very obvious, right? It goes directly to your bottom line, but the question has always been, well, how do I pay for it? We've seen great projects in Hawaii that have gone undone because not in this year's budget. They put it off to next year, and then next year comes, and all of a sudden we have to paint the building. We need new carpeting. We need this. We need that. And it's kind of interesting because that's what we think it should be. Those businesses should spend their money on their core business, and then through the shared savings program, we have a situation in which let energy pay for itself, because it can. There are very few projects or types of work that can pay for themselves over time. So the shared savings program that we developed actually is a situation that's been around for a while. I mean, we've all heard about it. In fact, you at the state have done quite a bit of this work, at the community colleges, at the airports and things of that sort. It's just that The traditional shared savings program tends to be a longer 20-year program for the public sector and deal with large dollars. What we've done is we've condensed that down to shorter time frames. We're now looking at between 5 and 10-year terms. And we're doing it at, on a very tighter, cost controls and those kinds of things, that then we can then take it out to the private sector, excuse me. Because the private sector, what we found over the years is going beyond 10 years is kind of a mystery for a lot of them, right? I mean, you don't know what's going to happen, how the industry will change or things are happening. So you need to keep it to shorter terms that they can deal with. So that was the first things that we did, was we really looked at shortening the term, controlling costs, so that we can then get it into reasonable amounts. Now the shared savings program starts with a term sheet that we sign with them that is binding, that basically agrees that we're going to negotiate in earnest on this to try and get it done. With that, we complete an investment grade audit. And then through the investment grade audit, we identify what the potential savings is, costs, rebates through Hawaii Energy, those kinds of things. From there, we have our own financing that we can then put together a split of the savings. And this is the way it would work, is that, let's say, one project we're doing right now is Kokini Health Center. It's about a $5.8 million project, and we are going to save them $1 million a year in energy and non-energy related items. Of that, we're going to share the savings. So there's going to be a portion of the savings that will be paid to pay for the process, and there's a shared portion that they will keep themselves. So actually, it's a reduction in electric bill. But for that, we're going in and we've changed out their chillers. We've changed out their pumps and cooling towers, put in brand new boilers. We did about $1.3 million in lighting retrofits, which is going to be tremendous savings, as well as variable frequency drives. So we've done a very holistic approach to it. And for Kokini Health, we're adding redundancy, we're adding reliability, and a high level of control. So they're going to get a whole new energy management system. So if you think about, we've been able to put together this $5.8 million project, that the savings over a period of time will pay for that project. And what is really interesting too is the fact that in the past the challenge was, well, the CFO or the financial folks would, well, how do I know I'm going to get the savings? Right? Because you're still got to pay the bill, right? So how do we know we're going to get the savings? With the shared savings program, there's a lot of diligence put into the front end, so we all understand how the savings is going to be generated, how the calculations are done, what are the formulas, what are the assumptions. And if we all know that going into this up front, we program it into the energy management system. At any moment in time, anyone can go online with the proper passwords and see what their savings is. It's a tool that we use online so that we can see if it's drifting, right? If we're not getting the savings we need to, if set points are changed or different things like that. All of that can be found up front, because the problems or challenges in the past has been that it's turned sometimes into adversarial situations, right? I'm saying, Howard, you're saving, $1, and you're going, whoa, wait a minute, now I'm only saving, 50 cents. So we needed to figure out ways to alleviate that potential conflict. And by bringing things up front, discussing it, working through the formulas, getting everybody to clearly understand, we were able to get into situations where, nothing is hidden, everything is up front. And so you would be able to see at any moment in time.
Yeah, we call that in government, we call that transparency.
Exactly.
Yeah. And something that Miles Kubo would stress when I was working with him was, you, the client, start with a positive cash flow on month 1.
Yes.
Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, there's 2 parts to that. First off, well, I guess there's multiple parts to that, I should say more than 2, but first off, we finance or pay for the whole project up front. So there's no upfront costs aside from maybe some legal fees. So that part is covered. The second part of it is, during construction, the cost of construction is covered through the front end financing. But in the meantime, like at Kokini, we have lighting in there, which we completed the lighting, I believe, about 3 months in advance of the overall project being complete. So in the meantime, they're getting the savings from the lighting. We've done the variable frequency drives, we've done different things like that. All that savings gets accumulated directly to Kokini. the first payment does not occur till 1 month after the whole project is complete. So, there's, like I said, there's multiple benefits to them that they will see. So, no upfront costs because it's being financed. During construction, anything that we complete and save, they get to keep. And then they don't make their first payment till a month after it's complete. And it's a share percentage of the savings that's generated. So if they generate no savings, if no savings generated, they make no payment.
Yeah.
Now, one last thing to that, because we're responsible or on the hook for the savings that's required, because we provide guarantees.
It's a guarantee.
Yeah, we provide guarantees for that. We maintain the systems. We then take care of any repairs, replacements of the equipment we deal with. So imagine for the next 10 years, and we've talked to Coquina about this, they will not spend any money on lighting. They will not spend money if a VFD goes down, or if a pump fails, or if a chiller goes down. All of that is covered under this program, because if the system is not operating, it's not generating savings, and so then it comes out of my pocket, right? I have to compensate the financier. Now, a little added twist to that guarantee or that maintenance side thing is the fact that we have third parties that guarantee the savings to us. I mean, we've been around for 20 years, and we've got, our balance sheet is good and solid. But, for the Coquina situation, it's $10 million over 10 years. I mean, the possibility of it being zero savings is pretty minimal. But at the end of the day, right, I mean, you want to know that whoever's providing that guarantee is solid. So we've engaged a company that's an insurance company, a large insurance company that's backed by Hanover Re, that has engineering staff that reviews all our calculations and formulas and assumptions. What is really interesting is we give them the raw data, they build the savings, and then they match it up against ours. So it's truly independent, and if they can come up with the same level of savings, they backstop our guarantee to the bank.
Yeah, so this is as close to guaranteed as you can get.
We spent a lot of time really looking at where the risk was. Where is the risk? And in the private sector, we understand that you need to be as foolproof as possible. There are some risks. I mean, it's not totally foolproof, but where you can figure out ways to reduce or mitigate that risk, we have to take that into account. And so that's how the program was developed over the last 10 years.
Another benefit of this retrofit, you mentioned you did lighting first. What is the relationship between the heat load of the building and the sizing of the AC system?
Actually, with LEDs, the LEDs tend to reduce, less wattage, less heat, right? Yeah. So that actually enhances reduces the overall building cooling load. So in this application, we've done a lot of low wattage fluorescents and then a lot of LED lamps. So it reduces the overall building load, which then reduces the cooling requirement, so increases the energy savings. So, exactly what you said, if you can look at doing those applications, there's a multiplier effect.
Okay, and we need to take a break pretty gosh darn soon, but we certainly want to involve Tina in the discussion. And Tina, will you be talking strictly about solar, or will you be talking about a multiplicity of?
Well, I always layer in everything that we bring to the table. It's one of the tools of our toolbox, but my specialty is in the solar department.
Yeah. And when we do that, when we get to PVs, will you please talk also about the cooling effect of PV panels on a roof?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. Are we ready to take a break then? Okay.
Aloha, this is Keli'i Akina. It's my privilege to be the host of Ehana Kako, a weekly program on the Think Tech Hawaii Broadcast Network. Ehana Kako, what does that mean? Well, many people have heard of Epule Kako, let's pray together. Ehana Kako means let's work together. Let's work together to build a better economy, government, and society. And every week, Monday from 2 to 3 o'clock, you will see movers and shakers and other people who are working together to build a better economy, government, and society. Again, I'm Keli'i Akina on the Ehana Kako weekly program on the Think Tech Hawaii Broadcast Network. Aloha. See you here Mondays, 2 to 3.
Hi, we're back with Think Tech Hawaii. I'm Howard Wigg, our host, and our guests are Dwayne
Ashimini.
Ashimini, the El Presidente, and Tina Sprague, the solar specialist. Tina, Dwayne, and I have been dominating the conversation. Please bring us up to date with the solar side.
Well, what's
Energy
really
Industries.
neat about Solar with Energy Industries and what we bring to the table is very different, is that I will go into a project, look at the ceiling, consider what other places that we can get the low-hanging fruit. So is there a lighting opportunity? Like Dwayne says, is there air conditioning opportunity? Is there refrigeration? Is there VFD? Is there window? Anything to reduce the load. And when I bring that to the customer, they realize that I'm not just after their wallet. I'm really trying to look at their whole business. My competition is other solar companies. They'll come in and all they want to do is put panels on the roof. And that's not my role. My role is to delight our customers and hope that they tell more people about the services that we provide as a whole company. So when I can say, well, if you do a lighting retrofit, it only costs you $25,000, but it's going to save you $75,000 on your photovoltaic, your PV, they look at me kind of crazy, like, why are you doing that? Aren't you a salesperson? I said, yes, I'm a representative of Energy Industries, and I want to make sure that you're happy. And so we're very, I would say, technology agnostic, but to a limit of that we only use the best technology that's out there.
And now can you segue that into the solar side?
On the solar side, I work on a lot of the commercial projects that we have here in town, and I can name off a laundry list, but some of the really good clients that we've worked with is, Bishop Museum, Menehune Water, Aloha United Way, Easter Seals, St. Andrews Priory, and then we're looking at a lot on the neighbor islands at projects. So that's just kind of a little bit of what we've done here. But I really enjoy helping the nonprofit as long as also helping out the commercial client. And there's two different ways of looking at it. They're saving money for the nonprofit. They're able to use a vehicle that we provide, which is a power purchase agreement, which allows them to have no money out of pocket, and they just pay for the energy that's produced. On the flip side, on the commercial side, clients are taking advantage of the tax benefit that's out there. They're able to utilize the depreciation that's out there, and they get a great return on their investment. Sometimes the payback on that is just 2 or 3 years, depending upon the system size and what their energy usage.
And you mentioned a rebate. One of the sponsors of this program is Hawaii Energy. And can you describe the relationship that you have with Hawaii Energy?
For us at Hawaii Energy, they don't get so much involved in the photovoltaic side, but they're very, very good supporters of Energy Industries for our energy with the lighting, and also even there's some solar hot water out there, and then there's additional programs that they're doing on the HVAC side and saving energy. But for us, it's a great foothold, because they'll make a recommendation, say, please call Tina if you want to do solar or if you want to do any energy savings. But the rebate program that we have with them is phenomenal, and it's a service that we provide at Energy Industries. Is we have a rebate specialist. That's their primary job, is to make sure that all the paperwork is filed and that all of the invoicing is submitted, and make sure that the clients get their rebates. So the client doesn't even have to worry about that. It's one-stop shop. It's a turnkey operation, so they can get their lighting, their HVAC, their rebates, and their PV, which is a nice thing.
Yeah. Beautiful, because these are business people. They've got to concentrate on their business.
Right.
And this is a very, very specialized
Well, and they have a lot of
industry, yeah.
questions, and we spend a lot of time educating our clients. And we'll start them at PV 101, or we'll start talking to them about the lighting capabilities that are out there. And we try and break it down very simple, because we know that the client, the more educated they are, the better the decision that they make. Now, do we win all of the contracts all the time after educating them? No, but we at least know that they made a decision that they can feel comfortable with. And then what has happened in time that we've been doing this is they'll make a decision with somebody else, and they'll come back and say, Teen, can you help me out here? So that's, you just very humble, and you can tease them a little bit. You should have gone with me the first go around, but I'm here to help you, and if there's opportunity, we will always help them.
And what I, as a state government employee, like is we are shooting for 70% clean energy.
Yes.
And in my unprejudiced view, because I'm an energy efficiency guy, the quickest, fastest, cheapest way to achieve that clean energy is simply by ceasing to burn as much oil. And indeed, even though the population of Hawaii is growing, we are reducing our electricity use, we are reducing the import of oil. for electricity.
That's great.
Witness the shutting down of the downtown power plant.
Yeah.
This is a testimony to people like yourself. And there's a couple more very inefficient units on this island, power units, and Hawaiian Electric is indeed looking down the road not too far
Right.
at shutting down those. To us, this is a major, major, major victory.
Right.
And when people like you take this holistic approach, don't just put up PVs, let's look at all the systems. You get a much, much, much greater savings.
Exactly.
And you have to be a
Yeah.
team player too,
Mhm.
because a lot of times I've gone into job sites and I realized the roof isn't appropriate for PV.
Mhm.
They just don't have the space. It just doesn't make sense in a lot of smaller buildings, tall, high rises. But I can go in and look and say, you know what, I'll take some pictures here, and then I bring it back to my office, and then we'll send out the specialists in the lighting or in the HVAC if there's an opportunity there. So it's kind of being the eyes and the ears of the company and always making sure that we can bring it in. But for me, and I've talked to my counterparts, they're like, well, why do you even do that? Why don't you just leave it go and move on to the next project? But those clients remember me, and they may tell somebody else about it, and they have told somebody else, so that it comes back full fold. But what the best part of it is, it makes the company grow. And like Dwayne was saying, they've experienced 20 years of growth, and they've experienced 20 years. How many solar companies have been around that long? We've been selling solar for about 7 years, but because I have the legacy of reducing before we produce, it gives me a lot more credence and a lot more credibility when I go in to deal with a client, which you can't buy that.
And speaking of expanding, most local companies stay local and you have mainland outfits coming in trying to horn in on your business. But Dwayne, I've learned that Hawaii is indeed expanding to California.
Yes, actually, we had offices in the Northwest, and we've done work across the U.S. It was very interesting. When we first started the company, we bought an operations in Washington State, opened up offices in Seattle and Portland and Idaho. And what was really interesting was we really had this opinion that, people say Hawaii is always like 5 years behind. So when we first started business in those areas, we actually got business cards that had our Washington State address on there, and we had Washington State phone numbers because we were concerned of the image that would cast. But what was really telling and interesting to me was we were working with Anheuser-Busch, and the facilities guy was just stone-faced. Everything we said was, no, done that, no, can't do this. And then behind him, I saw a picture of a condo, a building, and I was like, that's the Mauna Kai on Maui, in Kihei. And his face kind of changed, and he said, I'm on the board of directors there. And all of a sudden, we had done a lighting retrofit for them about 6 or 8 months ago. He was the one who signed our contract. And all of a sudden, his face changed, and he started saying, okay, well, what if we look at this? And from that point, we found out that everybody has a Hawaii story. I was in Idaho dealing with some folks from Lamb Weston, and the director of engineering, he had a picture of the Koele golf course, the 17th hole, the picture hole, and he had a big picture in the back of behind him, and I said, that's Koele 17th hole. He's a huge golfer, and he has 18 holes that are on his bucket list, and the 17th hole at Koele was one of them. And so we changed our business cards. We put our Hawaii addresses on there and Hawaii phones in. And it was very interesting. A lot of the engineers that we deal with, are older ex-Navy folks or ex-military. So they worked in Pearl Harbor during, different times, or Schofield or whatever. A lot of them have been to Hawaii on vacation or want to come to Hawaii. So being from Hawaii, expanding to Washington State, all these areas, in California as well, it's been a terrific boom for us. I mean, we did Hawaiian Host, a lot of work with Hawaiian Host stuff. So now we take Hawaiian Host chocolates,
Right.
and we use Hawaii to our advantage now.
On the other side, he's being very, modest too, but like Federal Express, Google, Yahoo, Microsoft, Boeing, are small companies, right, that we've done work for on the mainland. So reaching out and having that expertise, it's appreciated. We're not just, the kids from Hawaii. We do actually bring a lot of value to the table.
And it's been great because the knowledge that we've seen and gained from going into these facilities, it was very eye-opening for myself personally. I mean, as an engineer, going to these facilities and initially feeling a little overwhelmed, but then finding out they we know as much as them. Sometimes we know more than them. But it's also been great to bring back technologies and understandings. We look at condensing boilers. Never thought to put them here. Now they're applicable in Hawaii because of several projects we did with wineries in California. So it's been interesting in the fact that we've been able to look at and meet different technologies, different manufacturers, and then bring them back to Hawaii with us. And it's been helpful.
And our projects are more accelerated here because the cost that people are paying for electricity. So we're taking leaps and bounds and jumps in getting things done here quicker because our clients are paying so much. And is a great foothold for us when we go to the mainland and work with those mainland companies.
It turns the stereotype right on its head. You think of Hawaii very slow, as you said, kind of backward, and here you are accelerating things.
And that gives us a really good foothold too when we have competition coming in from the mainland and they're coming here trying to, do work here. It's like, oh, well, you're just a local company. Well, no, we're not. We are a local company. But when the tax benefits go away and all these incentives go away, where are those companies going to be? Who are you going to call to service your accounts? If you can get them. So you're going to be calling us. We live here. We raise our children here. We want Hawaii to get better. And we're here to make sure that it does get better.
Well, I'm part of the Department of Business Economic Development, and that is definitely music to my ears. Now, you mentioned a couple of teeny little companies such as Google, Lockheed.
No, Boeing.
Lockheed,
Boeing.
we've done work for Lockheed as well in Sunnyvale. No, we got to do some
Like
things.
FedEx Express.
I love the fact that having brought it out to the mainland, it's really introduced me and a lot of our engineers and a lot of different folks into a lot of different things. Tina mentioned Federal Express. We were hired by Federal Express to do lighting audits on 7 of their largest distribution facilities across the U.S. So all the way to New Jersey, Memphis, and different areas. But then one of the great parts about that is it really introduced us to a lot of the national players on the lighting side. So, we talk about that exposure, not only the work with FedEx, but then also the exposure to these technology companies that we've then adopted and brought back to Hawaii. We did, 8 Boeing facilities, all the way from Philadelphia to Mesa, Arizona, to California and Washington. It's very exciting that, we've done things like I think they provide 20% of the onions in the U.S. I mean, something really strange like that, but we did big ass fans and lighting and temperature controls. We've done potato farmers in Idaho, and it's very amazing to meet these people, just great people. All of them have different stories, and it's been interesting to deal with them and get a better understanding because you go to Idaho and it's 3.5, 4 cents a kilowatt hour, right, compared to what we're paying here in Hawaii. So it was harder for us to understand that, but then the incentives from the utilities were different. And so we found over time that technologies, the simple paybacks or return on investment on these projects tend to be somewhat similar. It's just that in those locations they have bigger incentives.
Well, some of the places that we have done lighting, it's still, or huge, vast warehouses, they're still spending $1 million on energy, even though it's 3 cents a kilowatt hour. So if you're still spending $1 million, that's a chunk of change. So let's reduce that, and what can they do with that money? And the other side of it is we did a lot of hospitals on the mainland, and that has helped us, which is kind of kooky, is to get more work here locally. So we've got the Kuakinis, and we've done the Castle Medical, and saving money for them is, to me, is just kind of like, here's a long laundry list of all the work that we've done on the mainland, which has helped us get work here.
That is
while being local.
Quite thoroughly amazing. Local boy does potato factory in Idaho.
And comes home and helps with Menehune water and, macadamia nuts.
No, and you know what? They love the Hawaiian Host macadamia nuts that we gave them. It's that kind of stuff that has helped us grow as a company, and it's expanded, and it's actually exposed us to a lot more things that, you know, our home is Hawaii, our core is Hawaii, our corporate office is here. We do 70% of our business here in Hawaii, our revenue. So it's been great that we've been able to bring back different theories and sequences of operations and different technologies. And then by having national reach, it's introduced us to people so that we've gotten better pricing on things. We've gotten, you know, to kind of work and we get better experiences. And so, you know, like in the next couple of weeks, you know, one of my engineers is actually going to be doing work on a hospital in Sacramento, but he's from Hawaii. And I think that exposure that he's going to get from that, dealing with our engineers in California, is going to be immense that he's going to bring back. And, you know, we're looking to do work with other healthcare facilities. You know, so having or seeing that in that situation and working through it, and then seeing that it's very typical, you know, I think it's invaluable. You talk about brain drain, I think we're doing the reverse
Pulling it back.
Precisely, yeah.
by bringing, you know, some of that knowledge back to Hawaii and then applying it here.
Okay, well, on that cheery note, it's time to take another break. We'll be back in a minute. This is Think Tech Hawaii.
I'm Hong Jiang, host for Asia in Review on Tuesdays.
And I'm David Day, host for Asian Review on Thursdays. Both of us broadcast our respective shows at 4 p.m.
And my topics tend to deal with questions related to environment, culture, history, and sometimes human rights.
And my shows tend to be on international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security. And you can watch our shows live on the ThinkTech website at thinktechhawaii.com.
And you can also watch us on YouTube or Olalo.
So come join us on Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'm David Day.
And on Tuesdays at 4 p.m., I'm Hong Jiang.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Good afternoon. This is Howard Wigg, host of Think Tank Hawaii. And we have as our guests today, Energy Industries, Dwayne Akashiwai and
Ashimine.
Ashimine. And he got to write that down.
No
It's an
problem.
unusual name.
Yes, it
Oh,
is.
and by the way, he is related to every other Ashimine in Hawaii. Yeah.
Yes, I
And
am.
he was telling me offline that when he was dating, his mother was very, very careful. He wasn't dating a second cousin or something like that. Yeah. We are talking about the fact that there is a local company that, number one, made good here and has spread all over the mainland. I am absolutely astounded. Local company goes to Idaho potato factories, California onion factories. They've done FedEx and aeronautical companies.
Boeing.
Lockheed.
Boeing, Lockheed. This is
Starbucks.
absolutely phenomenal. And I've asked them, what is the secret of your success? And they say, oh, we just bring Hawaiian Host chocolates. It's got to be just a little bit more than that. Could you tell us, Dwayne, given this incredible success story, haven't you had any obstacles, any bumps in the road, and where do you see yourself evolving to, say, 5-10 years down the road?
You know, it's always been a challenge. You know, energy efficiency or even renewables. It's interesting that people consider it a nice to have a lot of times. You know, it's not like the spalling on the building. You know, concrete is flaking off. They got to take care of it. Because as we talked about, it's not their core business. You know, it's treated as, well, a lot of times it was treated as, well, if I have extra money, okay, then I'll do the project, the efficiency project. That's why it's interesting for us that every year, in the first 2 quarters of the year, revenue is down. It's always in the second half of the year that we do 2/3 to 3/4 of our revenue, and it's because it's at that time they finally figure it out. They have extra money in the budget, or they have a spend it, use it or lose it kind of situation. So those have been the barriers, is trying to get people to understand that this affects them. The cost of waiting. What is the cost of waiting? Because now you're talking a return on investment project. So if you don't make that investment early enough, 3 months, 6 months down the road, that means that's many months worth of energy savings that you paid to the utility that you could have kept in your own pocket. So that's been the challenge, I guess.
And given all of this growth, where do you see yourself in 5 years, 10 years?
You know, the focus of the company has really has shifted towards the shared savings program. You know, we feel that it's taken down the barriers, because throughout the 20 years, that's what we've been trying to do, just take down barriers. Overcome one barrier. You know, it was like, well, how do I know this T8 light is going to turn into anything? It's too expensive, it's never going to take hold. So you start taking down barriers one by one. The last one that we faced is the cost of doing the project. So if we can, through the shared savings program, take that on, you know, it's not a Hawaii issue, it's a national issue, it's an international issue. We feel that we've cut our teeth and we've built the program. We have an understanding over the last 10 years. And so now we're taking it beyond the borders. And we want to take this to corporate America and then look at how it can be rolled out, because it makes sense. You know, when we first started the company, we sat down and said, well, how do we become a national player? I mean, that was the goal. Always the goal was national player. We were talking IPO, we were talking different things. I mean, we had these great plans. So we said that, how do we do that? And so we thought about it, okay, if you think about any modern building in the US or in the world, what are a couple of the things that are required to make it usable? If you think about it, it's lights, it's some form of ventilation, whether it's cooling, heating, or just ventilation, right? And then the third part is potentially hot water or any electricity, right, as utility. So at first we were like, wow, how boring, you know, lighting and air conditioning. But then if you think about it, if you can become the best at that, make that the most efficient it is, think about it, you can get into just about every building, every modernized building in the world. So now when you look at the market and you talk about 5-10 years down the road, we see that, you know, that's where we want to be. You know, Hawaii will always be home, will always be home. But, you know, to get to the goals that we want to reach, we understand that we have to go after, you know, corporate in California. That's why we have our office in San Francisco, because a lot of the corporate offices are in that location.
And speaking of the interiors of buildings and modern equipment, you particularly mentioned health facilities, hospitals, and we know that hospitals are very, very difficult to operate. You've got all of these very sick people, all these germs all over the place, and a lot of mishaps happen in hospitals. But if you have especially very, very good ventilation, carefully controlled ventilation with the proper filters, you can do, in my opinion, a lot better job of keeping people healthy in hospitals, and for that matter in offices, wherever, than you could in the past, because technology has improved so dramatically, in addition to the energy savings.
Yes, and you know, there's very strict standards called JCO standards that are required. So there are certain limitations that make it a little bit harder to work in hospitals or healthcare facilities. But it's because of that reason too that there's been so much resistance, right? You know, with the very first hotels we went into, we were like, well, I don't want to risk JCO. You know, I don't want to risk my certification, my accreditation. And we're saying, hey, you know what? We don't need to touch those areas. We need to make sure we meet the lighting standards. We understand that there are certain air change and different requirements. But then what about the office areas? What about the back of house? What about the other areas? Those are just energy hogs. And hospitals and healthcare are notorious for being energy hogs because they're 24/7, a lot of machinery, you know, MRI machines and whatever else. So now, that's the one thing that we focused on was, I don't want to tell them how to make somebody better, but I can tell them how to cool that person, how to heat that person, how to light it. And if you take that premise to any forge, any potato farming, no, if you think of it from that point of view, I'm not telling them how to grow a better potato, but they got to ventilate it and they got to light it. So I'm telling them how to do that, you know, better, more efficiently.
Yeah, it's called climate control.
Yes.
And to me, we're doing a much, much better job of climate control now, thanks to improved technology.
Yes.
The other side of that too is where we're out meeting with clients is everybody thinks they can do it in-house. They'll have their maintenance staff do it. They'll have their, they'll just think they can do it in-house. And they don't have the time to do that. It never gets done. So if you hire a company like Energy Industries, and we hope they hire Energy Industries, they come in, we can go in, and that's our core drive, is to get this project done and to get it done properly. And so then they can spend their time working on other things like getting people better or making sure that they're running their businesses properly.
I don't know if either of you are lighting specialists at all, but that happens to be my field. And I'm a huge fan of the LED because you can control the LEDs so intimately.
Yes.
There's a whole new field coming out that links lighting with health. One of my friends says, Howard, think of light as a medicine where we can modulate the light from the morning to the noontime to the evening through the night. And I'm thinking in particular of nursing homes and care homes
Yes.
where the people spend not just 90% of their time indoors, but maybe 95, 97% of their time indoors. Have you looked into supplying lighting as a health mode in addition to energy efficiency?
It's not been a focus point of ours, but actually when we were doing some work with Virginia Mason Hospital in Seattle, we looked at something called OLED, and we were looking at some of the MRI rooms and some of the different areas, because it's been proven in Alaska or in the Northern Territories, where they have 24 hours of night. I mean, the levels of some of the chemicals within the brain change. So they're finding out in some of the hospitals, and this wasn't research that we did by any means, but just what we learned from dealing with some of those hospitals was they were really looking to change, like kind of like this room here. Imagine if we could put up a light, a flat panel light on the wall that had a picture of a pasture or scenery. And now some of the technology is getting so great that that scene actually changes and it moves and it provides light for the room and it almost looks like a window. So now imagine if you're doing an MRI and you're not trapped, you don't feel as trapped in this room because you have a pasture scene or something. And so that's what we did for a few hospitals in Seattle. But like I said, it was more, we were assisting them in providing a technology that met their needs than us really pushing that. We've always stayed focused on energy. Excuse me. It's interesting because energy field can be so wide, and then making sure that we pull the focus back and focus on our core is what we've really stressed.
We've also gotten feedback from clients that talk about even in the employee area, and if it's like in a warehouse or if it's in a closed-in area, how lighting has made their staff more productive. They're getting more work out of them. They're more, the staff is happier. They enjoy coming to work, and they're not carrying around a flashlight trying to look at things like they were before because there's enough light in there.
Yeah, as we all know, about 90% of the cost of any business is personnel. And when you can use good quality HVAC systems to deliver just the right amount of cold air and the type of lighting that is needed uniquely for that space, inevitably, I've seen study after study, productivity goes up, feelings of satisfaction go up, and turnover goes down.
Yes.
Yep.
And as you mentioned, with the advent of the LEDs, now that the next technological change that they're looking at is now putting multiple LED colors in there. So you can do exactly what you said. You can simulate different times of the day, different moods, when productivity should be up, when it should be down, those kinds of things. It's really interesting what's going to be happening over the next several years.
Yeah. And it's all done generally with an energy reduction of at least 50%.
Yes.
That's been my experience time after time.
And the LED manufacturers have been focusing really on increasing the efficiencies and the light output, so the light, the lumen density kind of situation, so lumens per watt. So it's interesting that the technology has not changed. It's not a technological change. It's more getting pricing under control, getting better quality, lights, and dealing with issues like color, temperature, and things of that sort.
I've been in this business, you'd be shocked to know it, but for over 30 years. and I have seen the evolution of all this new technology. And in my personal experience, because I keep up with this field, the pace of improvements just keeps on going up and up and up. It was going up at this rate, now it's tending to go up at this rate.
Definitely, definitely.
Yeah. Do you see any more breakthroughs in HVAC or lighting technologies or building design or?
The next leap is going to be in controls. I mean, controls are going to lead the way. In HVAC, there's the magnetic drive compressors and different things of that sort, which make a quantum leap forward in efficiency. What we're seeing with the LED manufacturers, which is the direction that everybody's heading to now, is that they're now longer life. So people need to stop thinking of lighting as being disposable.
Right.
Right? Because now the guarantees are 10 years.
Yeah.
So now it's not a throwaway incandescent that burns for $800 and you throw it away. So the mentality of people has to change in that regard to begin to understand that. But now you're seeing that mindset where LED prices, it's kind of like photovoltaics, right? I mean, it was really expensive, and now the prices have come down. You've weeded out kind of the weak players, and now the stronger ones are left. LEDs are heading in that, and we're at a moment in time right now where the LED manufacturers aren't so much looking at what the next progression is. There's light emitting plasma, and there's some other things like that are out there. But they seem like they're focused on reducing costs and then extending the life and building better quality.
And on that very, very cheery note, we need to end. And thank you so much, Dwayne
Ashimine.
Ishimine and Tina Sprague, for being our guests. This is Think Tech Hawaii. See you next time.
Thanks, Howard.
Thank you. Thanks, Summer.